almost at the end here, so I want to start kind of bringing it home a little bit. Brian, I wanted to ask you both as a doctor and as a husband and father, why is it so important to just stay home right now? Like, and answer it. If it may be the same answer, but you can also answer it from wearing both hats if you can.
The answer is very simple. This is not a question of me. This is a question of us. I'm staying home to protect everybody else, and everybody should be staying home to protect themselves from, or protect everybody else from them. So we have to think about it from a public perspective. If we are going out and doing what we want to do, we're going to be interacting, we're going to be exposing other people, and we're going to make this last a lot longer than it needs to. This is a terrible virus, and it's causing terrible consequences. And we need to make sure that we're giving of ourselves for the greater good.
Yep. So Brian, how does this play out? So how do we get past this, or how does it get resolved? What are your thoughts there?
We're going to be entering some very troubling times over the next few weeks for a couple of reasons. One, we're going to start hitting our peak incidence. Now, just remember that it's between 5 and 14 days after catching the virus that you actually become symptomatic, and those symptoms can last for a couple of weeks afterward. So it is likely that over this last week and these next couple of weeks is when most people are actually going to be shedding virus, and we're going to be starting to get a lot of people becoming ill. So it's very crucial that over these next few weeks, we are staying at home and doing that appropriate social distancing. If we don't, then this is going to last a lot longer. The expectation is that only about 5% of people in the country are actually going to be exposed to the virus during this pandemic.
Right.
And afterward, we still have 95% who have not caught it. We still are not sure how long immunity lasts after catching the virus. How many colds have you had in your life?
Right. Countless.
Countless. And so that's a
Yeah.
coronavirus. So we don't know how this is going to play out. How long does this immunity last? So even those that may have caught the virus, either been asymptomatic or been symptomatic and recovered, may catch it again and may not have as good of outcomes.
Right.
So the only
Right.
way to prevent transmission is to stay at home, to distance yourselves, to do the appropriate sanitizing and disinfecting techniques.
Yep. Yeah. That's super helpful. And unfortunately, I don't know if the viewers were expecting a secret sauce answer there, but it sounds like the way to do this is to, stay at home, stay with your families, isolate yourself, and that's the best thing to do to get there quicker. But you're right, and I know every state is different. And even before we started recording, I was just telling you that the reports seem to be that this coming week, maybe 2 weeks, is going to be the peak in New York, and it's
Mhm.
scary to think it's going to get much worse than it's already been, because the daily reports are terrible. And other states, I feel terrible. Other states are weeks behind. So I look at other states that are just coming into it, and New York has been crazy. And obviously New York dominates the media a lot, but to think that our peak is not even here yet, and then other peaks in other states are weeks away, it's scary. It's really frightening for anyone, whether you're single, you're married, you have a parent, you're a parent, or you're a caretaker, grandparents or parents or whatever it is. So but yeah, I think that's the best way to resolve it. So Brian, now I want to get to a little bit more about you. So on Endless Capacity, I try my best to explore different aspects of somebody's life and their goals, and just their passions in general. So you're someone, ironically, that a year ago we could have done this conversation in person. You and I live close to each other. We're good friends. But you decided to not only to take a dream job that relocated yourself and your wife, but you did it with only weeks being away from your wife delivering your first baby. And oh, by the way, it wasn't just a simple relocation; it was New York to Florida. So, and you did this all in, I mean, literally, I think you told us you were moving and you were pregnant maybe like weeks from each other, and we were devastated, but it seems to work out. Again, dream job, and I get it. But I'm curious not about the job and the move. I'm more curious about like what adjustments not only as a professional, a doctor in your profession, but also husband and father, did you have to make, and what did you really learn about yourself along the way in order to make such a rapid change, such a big change so quickly, I should say?
It was a very difficult decision. I really loved my job. I loved the people I worked with. I loved the friends and family I had in New York. So coming to this decision certainly was not easy. When I looked back at my life in New York, I was working my regular 9 to 5 office job. Plus I had a lot of off or after hours event coverage, which I love, but it was not conducive to being around for my family. So we made this decision pretty soon after we found out that we were pregnant, um, because I wanted to be home more, and
Mm,
I wanted to be the father that my child could look up to. I did not want to be the distant father who helped provide for the family but did not do very much else.
right, right. No, I think that is, and it's kind of the perspective or thesis. I don't know how to put it. Honestly, I still struggle to find words for it, but that to me is I don't even consider it balance. I consider it like the choices we make to increase our capacity and threshold at work, but do it in a way that still allows us to thrive and become better husbands and fathers and take care of our homes.
Mhm.
Um, that that combination is the I think that's the sweet spot, and that's something that I struggle with daily. I'm sure you're struggling with as well. And there's no, sometimes you go forward, sometimes you go back, but that to me is the biggest thing, is how do we let our lives kind of work together to increase everything, as opposed to sacrifice one aspect of it to get ahead on the other aspect, the other side, because that's happened to me at different points in my career and life itself. So it's interesting to hear how you've basically made this decision when you knew you were taking on so much more responsibility. You said, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's almost like, well, if we're going to take on responsibility here with a baby, I might as well go all in and take on all the responsibility and increase increase the job, and then we'll go do it somewhere else as well. So, and just for everyone to know, this all didn't happen that long ago. This is only about a year ago when you made this move, and your beautiful son is turning 1 tomorrow. So happy
Mhm.
birthday!
Thank
Very
you.
exciting. I once heard, I don't even know if I agree with it or not, but I do think it's funny. I once heard that the first birthdays are really for the parents, because like you made it, you got a year under your belt. So, you guys, hopefully you and your wife celebrate tomorrow as much as you guys, as much as you do for your son, there.
Thank you.
Cool. And so Brian, so how, if you want people to find you, how do people find you? Are you on social, or do you have an email that's friendly to email? What's the best way to find you?
So I try not to be on social media because of my position. I really like to be
Yep.
in the background and make policy. So it
Yep.
is rather difficult to find me on social media. If it's okay with you, if somebody wanted to find me and they had questions through you, I'm happy to answer them with you as my
That is
proxy.
that is perfectly acceptable. So anybody, if you have questions for Brian, follow me or reach out to me, either private message, text me if you have my number, or just follow me on social. You can also leave comments in the video, and we can send questions back and forth and make sure that they get answered for you. Brian, I can't thank you enough. This has been hugely informative for not only myself, but I'm sure everybody that's watched. So I really appreciate your time. Please get back to your family, and of course, stay safe. Thank you for all the tips and advice.
Thanks for having me. This was great.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Bye.
Bye.